Hey guys, in this episode, we're going to go over motivated sellers. We're going to go over generating PPL leads versus doing cold call leads and stuff like that. And essentially, we're going to go into how you can generate the best leads for the cheapest amount of price and the fastest cash conversion cycle possible. So stick around if you guys are looking for this information.
Hey, this is Bridger Pennington, Chris Nog,
Cody Hoffine,
Corey Geary,
Alex Casale,
Clay Rockwood, Matt Porcaro,
Tanisha Spencer,
David Olds, Drew Hitchcock, and you're listening to the Investor Semester Podcast with Jeremy Davis.
Welcome to the Investor Semester Podcast, where the nation's best investors come to level up their game. I'm your host, Jeremy Davis, and whether you're locking up your first deal or scaling with creative finance, I'm here to bring you real conversations, real strategies, and the exact playbook that top investors are using right now. Most of our listeners are already inside our private community, but if you're not there yet, just go to investorsemester.com to join. Now for the show. Jason Sager is a former CPA with over 20 years of experience in business and real estate, and he now works with motivatedsellers.com, helping real estate investors grow by generating high-converting motivated sellers. His financial background gives him a unique edge in developing data-driven strategies that help clients close more deals and close them faster. Outside of work, he's a licensed pilot, scuba diver, and hockey coach to his 3 young kids. I'll say, Jason, I am also a master diver, and I also played hockey for many, many years, and a goal is to become a licensed pilot. So that's super cool. But anyway, guys, let's welcome Jason Sager to the podcast. What's up, Brad? How you doing?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. I'm trying to remember how you and I met. I think it was through one mastermind or 2 masterminds. But as I said in the intro, you work with motivated sellers, originally known as Need to Sell My House Fast, and then you guys converted to it actually probably the name making more sense. And you guys provide, in essence, you guys provide leads for real estate investors, specifically for homeowners that are looking to sell their property. And you guys have a major focus on Google ads, and I'm sure you've dabbled in like social media ads, Meta and stuff like that. But yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about your backstory and how you guys got started?
Yeah, so it's Need to Sell My House Fast. I'm, one of the first employees there. Not the first, but one of the first few. And it started out, they built a website. Amir and David, our owners, built a website for somebody. He ended up not wanting and not paying for it. And so they had the website up already. They built it and they started getting leads. So Amir started offering them to investors. He's like, just take it and pay me if you get a deal. And eventually the investors at first were like, oh, I don't know. After a little while, they were like, hey, I need more of these. I need more of these. And so they started to sell the leads. Now we do about 500 leads a day nationwide. And like you said, we primarily focus on Google. We do a little bit of Meta, a little bit of TikTok. But at the end of the day, the majority of the leads are going to come from either Google, YouTube, or some Google display ads as well.
Love it. Love it. Real quickly, I want to preface, guys, if you're in the audience listening to this, newer investors, they get duped very often by companies that are selling leads. And I want to separate the difference here. When you are on Facebook and some random person from Pakistan sends you a DM and says, I've got motivated seller leads, those are typically going to be trash or they're going to be a scam. And to be more clear on that, for me, I used to own a virtual assistant company, right? So we generated leads all the time. And one of our biggest rules was when a lead is generated for a client, it is theirs to own. But other companies out there, when that client quits and stops using that virtual assistant company, other companies will take those previous leads because they put them all into a master spreadsheet and then they sell those leads. And the difference is that you don't know if that lead is even motivated. You don't know if it was a year old or 2 years old. It's just a random address with a random phone number with a random name that company will sell you. And so for a lot of beginner investors, they see the sparkle of, oh my God, you mean you can just buy leads that are super easy to get and I can buy them in bulk and blah, 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 blah. Please do not waste your time on that. I really mean that. I can't emphasize that enough. But when you look at motivated sellers or you look at other reputable companies that are out there, the difference between their leads and those leads you're going to get DM'd with are these leads are fresh. These leads have come in literally within a matter of where a motivated seller is like, hey, listen, I want to sell my property. They find a website, they find a landing page, they fill out the information. And the minute that is clicked submit, as fast as the interwebs are going to allow the data to be transferred, if you are a person that is buying that lead, it's going to be pushed right into your CRM, or it's going to be text to your phone or emailed to you. So you get that lead super fresh. So I just want to preface the difference between those types of leads. When you say that we sell leads, your leads are the freshest of the fresh. It's almost like you just caught a giant tuna in the ocean, and right now that's what you're buying, versus some old smelly fish that's been sitting on the dock for the past year with flies around it. So anyway,
That's
awesome, man.
that's such a great analogy though, and you look at us. It's not just us, right? Some of our competitors who are reputable, and we know the guys. I mean, that's it. You're getting the fresh leads. They come right away. You'll act when we send them out to somebody, they actually see them before we do, but it's less than a second difference. So that you couldn't be more right about that. And the fresh leads, the ones where people actually input their information and they're reaching out to you, just makes it so much more of a stronger and quality lead.
Exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong. My assumption is you said you sent it to that one person for about a second beforehand. My guess is that's probably quality control.
Yeah, it's just the way our system is routed. It sends out the thing first, and then it actually pops up to us because it takes us about a second or two to
Oh,
refresh it.
I
But it,
understand.
it goes into a database and then it gets shot out, and then we'll be able to see it. So I mean, it's all effectively instantaneous.
Got it. Got it.
Um, and just one thing, as you mentioned, is our leads are exclusive. So they go to one person only, and that's it. So when you're buying that lead, it's not a spreadsheet from Pakistan, like you said. It's a little more expensive, but obviously it's way better quality and the people are expecting a call.
Right. Right. And you guys are known as a PPL provider, right? So a pay per lead versus Google is pay per click. And the separate the difference is, if I'm running a PPC campaign, a pay-per-click campaign, it typically means that it's going to be my own campaign. I own it. I have the Google Ads account. I've got to spend the money. I've got to monitor it. I've got to make sure that the landing page converts well and all that kind of stuff. Versus PPL, or pay per lead, that's your side of things. So you guys specialize in making sure that your landing page converts, that you're going to get the highest motivated leads that are being put into your system. And you guys, you said yourself that it's exclusive for the person who buys with you guys, versus other types of PPL providers have a different type of system. And I would love for you to just dive into that just for a second. One system that exists is that you can see the information about the lead, and then you can actually say, you know what, I choose to buy this. And then they can either pay $20 for an older lead, or $50 for a better lead, or $300 for a super fresh hot lead. Versus you guys model kind of how Google runs their auction, right? Similar to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So it's an auction. The way we do it is an auction system. Our minimum bid is 150 for if you go into a specific county. We don't do zip codes, but per county it's 150. We don't filter the leads, so we don't. We're marketing for motivation, but if somebody says 3 to 6 months, or 1 to 3 months, or ASAP, we don't filter that. The
Mm-hmm.
next lead that comes in goes to that bidder. We run a lot of different campaigns. So we run YouTube, we run Google pay per click, we run Google display. We don't filter that either, right? When you get it, the next lead that comes in goes to whoever the highest bidder with a budget available to spend that month is.
Right.
So there's no picking, choosing. There's no, well, we'll send it to 5 people. One person gets it, whoever the highest bidder is in that county.
Yep, exactly right. And the same thing, guys, like I said, it goes the same way for Google, that if there's one spot for that ad, Google is going to say, okay, who's willing to pay the most to take that spot? And Motivated Sellers does the same thing. But typically speaking, a strategy, and I'll say this much, I'm sure Motivated Sellers, you guys would love for me not to say this, but typically you're going to be tied with other people in your county. And that's usually where you want to kind of sit, where if you were to, let's say, raise the price, you go up by $50 or $25, you might get a lead or two. And that's fantastic. Like, you might get the top market and you're going to get sent those leads. But the minute that one of your competitors sees that they're no longer the top bid, they're going to kind of raise their price to match you. So essentially you've shot yourself in the foot for one or two leads. Now, what my strategy is, and what we work through with my team, is we try to stay at the tied bid most of the time. And when you talked about, $150 per county, and it can go up from there, this is also how we determine which markets in the nation are performing well, right? So if you were to go into Miami, Florida, there's a chance that those leads there are going to be a lot more expensive versus, Bakersfield, California. And so it's a way to be able to see what your competition is doing. And so there's certain markets, like right now, I just looked recently, I think Indianapolis, which to me is not a great market in relation to fix and flipping and wholesale deals and stuff like that. However, right now, people are looking for that 1% rule. They're looking for Midwest properties where the mortgage is not super expensive and they can be able to maybe take down the property creatively and then be able to rent it out. And that's where Indianapolis really shines. You can still find properties that are at the 1% rule. In other words, you can buy it for $100,000 and you could rent it for $1,000. And if you can do that, it's going to probably be a cash flowing asset. And so there's a reason why Indianapolis is more expensive than maybe properties that are in like Salt Lake City. I think Salt Lake City is actually cheaper than Indianapolis right now. And that's because in Salt Lake City, it's an appreciation play. It's not a cash flow play. And so when the market shifts and when things change, we use motivated sellers to determine like which virtual markets are going to be good for us to target. And same thing for our students. We essentially use your website, if you don't mind me doing that, as determining on where, if you're not going to be in your local market, which virtual markets do you want to pay attention to? And motivated sellers allows us to do that for free, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you something. So you talk about the different markets, right? San Diego is one of our most expensive markets because we can't generate enough leads for the investors we have there.
Right.
Miami can get expensive sometimes if we have a few investors, but we generate 500 leads a day. So you talk about, oh, we don't want to push up the bidding price. Yeah, of course we want the bid price up because then we can pay more to Google and create more leads. But we're generating a lot of leads, and I want to see people be successful. So I love your idea of tying the bid, right? Even though it kind of sounds counterintuitive, it keeps the bids down. No, because if you get more leads for your money, you're going to want to spend more. We don't want to sell one lead for $500 and then have the person quit, right?
Yep.
We want to have somebody stay on long term, be successful, and be one of your marketing streams forever,
Perfect.
right? So even though it sounds kind of crazy, but I don't want those crazy high bidders because if you have a bad month, it's not sustainable. If you're going around the minimum or close to that, but you just stay on forever and you set it and forget it and you'll take it, that's great because you're going to get deals. You're going to love us. We're going to build a long-term relationship, and that's our goal. And then it's funny you mentioned like Salt Lake City. So that's another one of our more expensive markets. But yeah, now the Midwest seems to be the way to go. South Florida is kind of funny because we have so many condos here.
Mhm.
And no, a lot of my investors are like, no, I would buy more. I would buy way more leads. Your leads are great, but I don't want the condos. And I'm saying, guys, nobody wants the condos right now. It's a great buying opportunity. Buy them now. Wait a couple years. We have a bunch of laws with the Surfside condo collapse and everything. And so there's assessments. But I was like, once you get past that, you can get better deals now because so many people are selling. The supply and demand is really a big difference. And you're going to get those values. So wherever you are, yeah, you'll find the values. But I love South Florida for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one more strategy that I didn't mention that I think everyone in the audience should know. Let's say you guys want to be in San Diego and the leads in San Diego are really expensive and you yourself maybe you don't want to be at that top price point. You could actually come a little bit lower, and here's what actually happens towards the end of the month. Those competitors that are in that market, they might actually go through their monthly budget. And you guys basically say, hey, what is your monthly budget that we're going to allow you to spend? And then if it goes past that budget, their campaign essentially gets put on pause till the next first of the month that comes by. And so what happens is towards the end of the month, you can get discounted leads because those competitors that are spending more money have run out of money, and you can come in and scoop up those cheaper leads. That's something you told me early on, but like, what's your strategy on that? What's your thoughts on that?
I love that. So if you're a big guy and you want to own your market, right? Then go and try and be the high bidder, be the top bidder. If you're not towards the end of the month, even if you're the low bidder, right? People run out of their budgets. People want leads. So that beginning of the month, they're all excited. Okay, good. I'm going to use it up. But if they have multiple counties, before you know it, their budget's, done and it goes to the next person. So exactly what you said. One other thing I want to mention, and this is a really big help. We have nationwide leads. So obviously all the leads in San Diego are going to sell, but you might have some counties, let's say upstate New York or in Florida or in Texas. Um, we don't have investors or we don't have enough investors. We sell those nationwide leads for $30 a lead, right? So if you're new and you want to practice talking to sellers, you don't want to spend the 150. If you want to get a couple deals virtually, that $30 per lead throughout the country is going to be a great price for you, right? You could
Yeah,
also do it by state for $50 for the state. So I have a lot of guys in Texas. We love the creative finance in Texas, right? Because you have quick foreclosure rules and it makes it really easy to do business there. But I have guys who are just like, I'll buy anything in Texas because you're only selling it for $50 a lead. And then they can go out and they can buy creative finance and then either wrap it or turn it into a rental.
absolutely,
But
dude.
going back to what you said, I mean, you're right on though. Like, you don't have to be the high bidder to get lead. A lot of my low bidders get leads, especially after the 10th, the 20th of the month. Now it's going down to people with lower budgets, and they're going to get their leads for sure.
I love that. So here's something really awesome that you just touched on, and I want to go into this more. So usually about every week, I run a marketing masterclass that I put out for free, and basically anyone can join, where we go into the difference between outbound marketing and inbound marketing and cost per lead. And like, if, by the way, if you're hearing me talk about this and you're completely lost, don't worry, you'll get there. You'll understand the difference. But outbound leads are typically going to be cold calling, right? An SMS, and inbound leads are going to be things like PPL, PPC, and direct mail. Typically, one of the advantages of doing outbound marketing, cold calling and SMS, is because you can get your leads to be a lot cheaper, right? Meaning that you're going to be in the $25 to $50 range because you're really only spending money on like a dialer or maybe even hiring a VA. But cold calling is one of the most effective ways to generate leads at an affordable rate. Where what I tell all my students, I go, hey, listen, it's a lot easier to fuck up a $30 lead than it is to fuck up a $300 lead, right? And if you're new in the sales process and you're not sure how to talk through the script or how to guide the seller through the conversation, it doesn't make you feel horrible that you just literally lit $300 on fire. It makes you feel better that you just practice with $30, right? You're not going to take like haymaker blows to the head with Mike Tyson. You're just getting a couple little jabs here and there and getting better at, your fight. The point you just made though, about how you can go nationwide, right? Or you can go statewide for $30 to $50. What you've essentially allowed an investor to do is to still be in that cheaper market, or sorry, the cheaper price point for the market. They don't have to hire a virtual assistant. They don't have to have a multi-line dialer. They don't have to skip trace any leads. They don't have to pull a list. They don't have to do any of that stuff. All they literally have to do is just on a little check mark right on your website is say like, yes, turn this campaign on. And then they're automatically going to start generating leads very, very quickly, right? That gives them the ability to start holding that conversation and practicing until they feel better about converting those leads, and then they can spend money on actual counties. Here's the one caveat to that.
That's absolutely right.
Right. The one caveat to that, guys, is I want to be very clear here, is that when you are doing nationwide marketing, your acquisitions, AKA the person that's getting the deals under contract, has an easier time. Because if you're talking to someone that owns a farm in the middle of some rural podunk, Nebraska, that owner of that farm has no ability to sell their property, and they know it. So that means that they're going to be more than likely willing to negotiate and give their property up at a very discounted rate, which is fantastic for acquisitions. Like, that's what we want. We want to find a motivated seller, but we really want to find a motivated seller in a highly, sought after neighborhood. And that's where acquisitions, if you found a highly motivated seller in a sought after neighborhood in a great zip code, fantastic. You just made $50,000 to $100,000 no matter what. But if you're finding a motivated seller in a farmland, in the bayou, you're not going to be having a good time finding a buyer for that. So what I always suggest to people that are going to be going nationwide marketing, either you need to have an established disposition process, meaning you have to have strong dispo to be able to find buyers and blast out that deal, or partner with somebody that does, right? That's where a lot of our students come to us with. We have a stronger dispo process. We've got, thousands and thousands of buyers from across the nation. What I don't want you guys to do is spend money on nationwide leads and then, waste a lot of time getting under contract and then just basically burning out trying to find buyers where you're never going to find them. So start looking at people that might also have a nationwide buyers list that you can work with and start partnering with them. So sorry for that little sidetrack. I just wanted to go into that real quick.
No, that's awesome information. And there's companies that do dispo. If you guys do that, that's great. Um, the better the deal, the easier it is to move, obviously. Like you said, it's easier to get in some of these podunk towns, but it's great practice, right? Get a
Yep.
few of those under contract. Learn how to have the conversation. Learn about how to ask questions to sellers. That's the most important thing. You want to have those conversations. You want to understand them. If you want to understand them, you can work something out. But you really got to spend the time and understand them and know what to say and actually what not to say as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There was in Utah, there's a little town called Fairview. Really just, again, I don't even think they have a local police officer. It's like someone has to volunteer overtime to drive from another city to just drive through the streets there. And I'd say it was the Wild West. And we get a lead there. And I go, no, 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 please don't make me dispo this out. Please don't make me do this. So we get a lead, we get under contract. It was a foreclosure. And the seller, he had, if I remember correctly, his wife had just left him. He wanted nothing to do with the house. He just didn't want the foreclosure on his record. And he just said, I'm going to give you the house, man. I don't want it. I don't want even $1 for this. I just want you to just take the house and I want you to stop the foreclosure. So we go in, we delay the foreclosure and we blast it out. And we find one person, only one lead that they're like, yeah, I'm actually looking to move back to Fairview because my family is from there. And we want to move back there and eventually have a rental property that we can rent out. And we want to be your buyer. And so without getting a contract signed with that buyer, I went in expecting it to probably be about a $30,000 assignment, maybe 25, somewhere around there. And I go to check out the property myself. I drive hours out of Salt Lake and I go to the property. And when I walk in the property, my eyes light up. I go, this property is in perfect condition.
Wow.
This is turnkey. Like I don't think, like if I renovated the property, and it's funny is that the depressed father, the depressed husband who had just been cheated on by his wife was like, yeah, it's not in the best condition. And whenever I hear someone say it's not in the best condition, I expect it to be a shithole, right? Like I expect there to be holes in the wall and stuff like that because sellers lie. They lie all the time. And when they're like, oh no, it's in great condition. I go, sure it is, buddy. Right. Like I know that when I get in there and I finally get photos, there's going to be a swastika on the wall or something like that. Right. Or it smells like cat piss. and in this situation though, it really was the opposite. He's like, it's in okay condition. And I get there and I go, this is in great condition. We don't have to do anything to this property at all. So that buyer, I go to them and I say, hey, now that I've checked out the property, here's my asking price. And they say, yeah, sounds great. And I think I made $55,000 from that deal. And here's the funny part. I actually created a reel that went viral about this. This is a true story. Their hard money lender that was going to be giving them the money for the property asked to see the purchase price, asked to see the mortgage statement and all that kind of stuff for their due diligence. And that private money or that hard money lender actually put me on blast on Facebook saying that I didn't deserve to make $55,000 on that property. And I said, well, it's really funny, honey, that you say that, but you're making your interest. You're making your points by lending to them. So don't even try to get on a soapbox and say all high and mighty. Here's the simple fact. The seller wanted nothing to do with the property. They just didn't want the foreclosure on their record. I got him under contract as seller nets zero. I'd never seen the property. I just said, hey, Hail Mary, you've got your foreclosure in 2 days. Let me do everything I can to stop the foreclosure, which I did. I get to the property and I make $55,000. But to the point I'm trying to make is that could have also gone the opposite direction. I might not have made any money. I might not have ever found a buyer because it's in a rural area. But nonetheless, I bet you everyone that's listening to this would be like, yeah, I'd do that. If it took me just making one Facebook post on a Facebook group and I find a buyer and that buyer pays me 55 grand, I'm okay with that.
Right? I'm sure your buyer got a discount off of what he'd buy it from a realtor too anyway.
Absolutely. And they, I talked to that buyer. In fact, that buyer then started getting more into real estate. They got me onto another stage with Brandon Turner and all those guys. And like, we end up talking and they go, yeah, we actually flipped the property. We did a burst strategy. So we rehabbed it and refinanced it. And now they have a cash flowing rental and they made a lot of money off it, And so again, guys, it's real estate is fun. It's fun. But All right, so
Yeah.
Jason, let's go into motivated sellers in general, right? So when a lead comes into your system, what is something that I said before about quality control? You guys, one of the advantages for PPL is disputes. Now, obviously, we don't want to dispute a bunch of leads whenever we can, but like there's actual exceptions that you guys provide. And what are those? Talk about those real quick. Hey guys, let me pause you real quick. I just wanted to take a quick moment to remind our audience about our private community, the Investor Semester. And right now, if you're listening to or watching this episode for just $1 to check it out, you'll get access to a nationwide network of investors and the opportunity to partner with me directly on your wholesale and your creative finance deals. You also get weekly live education, the tools and the contracts we use in the business, and the ability to buy and sell your deals without fighting the Facebook algorithms. Just go to investorsemester.com and sign up. Now back to the show.
So when a lead comes in, we don't do any QC in terms of we're not screening the lead ahead of time.
Okay.
You guys get it in real time, right? So that's a really good thing. We do some back end stuff, IP addresses and all, and security. They got to click a form. We want to make sure it's a real person. But by and large, we're not doing QC,
Got it.
right? So if a lead is listed on the MLS, we give them a credit. If it's a mobile home in a park, we give a credit. If it's unimproved land, we give a credit. If it's a wholesaler trying to sell a deal, we give a credit. If it's a spam lead, we give a credit. Every once in a while, somebody's trying to sell the Magic Kingdom at Disney World. Obviously, that's not for sale. We get that kind of spam stuff. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Again, you can't, the person who's selling it probably can't, right?
Right.
So we give credits on those. Um, and that's something, obviously, Google doesn't give us credits, back for
Yep.
that, but it's a part of the business. And we just say, hey, we're expecting a certain number are going to fit into our, dispute policy, and we're going to give them credits for that. It's a great way for the investors to kind of, they have a sense of cost control, right? Because if you're getting a lead in and it's listed and it's your own campaign, well, you've just paid for that, right? If you're getting it in from us, we'll give you a credit. That's it. So your next lead, you're not paying for
Yeah.
because you already paid for this one. You get a credit for it. So it really becomes a nice advantage in that you're going to speak to actual people that are looking to sell. In terms of our marketing, we're targeting for people who don't want a realtor, right? We get a lot of people who do want realtors or need them at the end of the day, but their first option they're looking for is a quick cash offer. So we target, not having a realtor go through your house, not having all the showings, not paying commission, not paying closing costs. So that's how we market to our sellers. So if it's a YouTube ad, we'll say something to that effect, or sell your house for cash. On Google pay-per-click, somebody types in something, sell my house for cash, sell my house quickly. Our ads will pop up right away for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say it again. When Jason and his team are running their own Google ads, they can't dispute a lead that's a bullshit lead. But the beauty of this is like what they're providing you guys, they're providing you an opportunity to be able to dispute leads that are not real leads where you don't have to spend that money. You're getting a credit for that, so you can actually apply that money towards a real lead when it finally comes in. And I'll tell you right now, guys, when a real lead comes in and you get a real inbound lead from a seller that's looking to sell their property, it is the easy. I take that back. I'm not gonna say it's the easiest conversation, but my God, it is a really great conversation to have with a seller to say, hey, you went to my website, you put in your information, tell me about your property. What's your goal? What's your timeline? And one thing I get from a lot of students and a lot of newer investors is they've never really actually spoke to a truly motivated seller. It's a completely different conversation. It really, really is. I don't want to say you can hear the desperation in their voice, but they are having a problem that you are there to solve. And versus an outbound lead like cold calling, they might say, yeah, maybe I'll sell, a year from now. But when someone is actively at 2 a.m. going on to Google and saying, who can buy my house for cash near me? And then this website pops up and they put in their information, 123 Main Street, and they click submit. That person at that moment is looking to sell their property. I promise you that. And so it's your job to be able to gather that information and say like, hey, what's your timeline? Typically we buy properties within 14 to 30 days. What's your timeline? Are you looking to sell within 30 days or less? If they say yes, check mark, boom, move on to the next question. So what has you wanting to sell? Is it?
You're so right about that. You talk about the cold calling. And that's miserable because when somebody answers, they're going, "You called me. What are you offering me? You
Mhm.
know, why do you want it?" With us, not everybody's super motivated, right? You're gonna get those super motivated people you're talking about where they're just like, all right, well, I just don't want a foreclosure on my record, or the auction's next week. What can you do for me? Or, I just want to get rid of this place. I can't deal with it anymore. This tenant, this maintenance issue, whatever else. But you also get the people who say, no, I want, Zillow says it's worth 400, so I want 400, or give me 390 so you can make 10. And they don't understand that. Or my neighbor's house sold for 400 a year ago, so that means you can give me what, 390, 380. And then so sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get them to a lower price, but you have people that want to have that conversation and want to sell. We get a lot of people who want the retail price at first, and then after 2 or 3 months, when reality hits them and nobody's going to pay that price in the condition it's in, all of a sudden now they're like, all right, well, what's the best you can do for me?
Right. Yep, exactly. And I'm assuming right now, Jason, my guess is that the market we're in right now, where it's more of a buyer's market, there's a lot of properties that are sitting on market. My guess is most of your disputes are probably on market listed. I'm be willing to bet that it's probably homeowners that are upset that their agent isn't selling the property fast enough and they're looking for help. Is that something you're seeing a lot of right now?
So yeah, we always see that. The biggest reason we get disputes is listed leads. That's over half of our leads. Right now, it's up a little bit, probably up about 10%, I would guess. I don't have an exact number for you, but you definitely see it up, and we see the agents putting it up because they just want to see it. That's what I'm seeing more of. The agents are putting the information in because they want to get an offer for their clients to show that they're bringing something in. And
Wow.
I think that that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's definitely a buyer's market right now. And that'll end up getting better, I think, for us in a little while. The longer the buyer market goes, the more people see reality and they see they can't compare to what it was a couple of years ago. And so they'll have more flexibility in the pricing.
Yeah.
When a market turns, it's tough because they're still looking back and they're saying, "Oh, I want to get what I was getting before." Um, Whereas now they're kind of okay. And as we go on, if the market stays like this, they're gonna be like, "All right, well, let me get the best I can and move on."
Yep, exactly right. So, Jay, you were in real estate prior to this. So, why don't you give me some ideas like how do you identify motivation when a lead is coming in? Like you guys obviously are not filtering anything out, so it just goes to the client, person buying the leads. Let's say you're the person that's buying the lead. Like what's the first thing that you would do when a lead comes into your system, your CRM or your text message? Like what would you do if you were
So
yeah.
most important stuff is I want to call them right away. If I'm at dinner, I finish chewing that bite, I don't take another bite, I'm calling, right? I'm not researching the property because the property doesn't matter at this point. Um, I'm calling right away as fast as possible. I want to have a conversation with the person. And one of my first questions is, hey, what do you have going on with you and with the house? And I want to see what they talk about, right? I want to understand their psychology. If they talk about the house and trying to sell you, they probably don't have that big urgency. But if they say something to the effect of, oh, I got this tenant in there and I don't want to deal with this jerk anymore, right? Or they say, I lost my job or my job transferred me, if they focus on their situation, that usually shows me more motivation than if they're trying to sell you the house. Oh, it's a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, with a new AC. So I want to look at that. I want to find out, their situation. What has them looking to sell? Sometimes the sellers are a little bit guarded in why they're going to sell. And at that point, you got to build a rapport first. It's like, hey, tell me a little bit about the house. Tell me what's going on, you know, um, and try and just understand them. Spend as much time as you can building rapport. The house isn't as important as what they have and what their goals are. Then when you go into it and you're trying to actually close a deal, then you want to know more about the house, what kind of condition and all that. But that's not as important as their situation. In terms of motivation, so tired landlords, one of my favorite. Health and safety. So if the house has a problem, such as a high crime area they don't want to be in, or it's something that's related to their health or their safety, that's always a good motivation. Um, Divorce is a good motivation because, like you talked about before, why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. People just want to get done with it and be out of there.
Mhm.
Um, and then you talk about job loss, but also job moving. And job moving isn't quite as strong motivation as some of the other categories, but it's there. And then obviously if they're in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, people will pay a lot of bills. Oh, sorry, will pay their mortgage before they pay a lot of other bills. So if they're at that point, they're probably in a pretty rough situation. Now, New York, that might be a couple of years down the road, but Texas, that might only be 30 or 60 or 90 days out or 120 days out. So you got to see where they are in the process and then see what kind of solution you can come up with. In Texas, that might be a lot faster than a situation in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a really good point there that, when someone is going through foreclosure, not only like when cold calling foreclosures, guys, there's a reason why they never answer their phone. Why a cold calling a foreclosure list is one of the most difficult lists to market to, because they are not answering their phone. They're looking at that number. They go, I don't know who this is I don't have them on my caller ID. They're not answering because why? They're probably assuming it's either the bank or it's a bill collector or somebody like that. Because when they already get to that point, they're at the very end of their finances being diminished. And so that's one reason why with a foreclosure person, if you go through the stages of grief, right? You first have in the very beginning, they're like, oh, no. I'm in denial. I'll fix the problem. And then 90 days to 125 days later, where now they're facing the actual auction, they've come to terms. They've accepted that they're about to lose their house. And so when they go to a website and they say, I want to sell my house fast, and they put their information in, that's the person that you're wanting to talk to. That's the actual logical brain that goes, you know what? I do have to sell this property. I realize now I have to move on from this burden and I have to fix that problem. And there you go. And then again, you made a really good point as well about condition of the property is not important, guys. And this is a really, really funny point I want to make is when you are talking to a motivated seller, we talk about the 4 pillars of motivation, right? We know that it's going to be timeline, condition, price, and reason for selling. Okay. What's the least important? It's going to be price. Because every single seller is going to tell you something about Zillow, right? Zillow's estimate or something like that, but it doesn't matter. That's just an anchor point. They're trying to tell you what they want. And then if it's real motivation, you can tell them what you want. And eventually you're going to meet in the middle. What's the second least important? Condition of the property, right? Because condition of the property is just going to determine what kind of offer you can give. If the property is a terrible, terrible condition and it's, a hoarder house, guess what? It's going to be a cash offer and only a cash offer. And if that seller doesn't have any equity in their property, then right away it's a dead deal. You can't do anything with it. Like imagine that for a second. If you were to do a creative offer and say, let me take over your property, but it's going to be $100,000 to renovate the property to get the cat piss out of the floors, there's no deal there, right? You need to get that property at a significant discount. And so if they have no equity, that's not going to be a creative offer. It's not going to be a cash offer. It can only be creative. And so you're starting to chisel away at what your offer can be. But the most important motivating factor is going to be timeline. That's it. If they're looking to sell their property in 14 days or less, that is a motivated seller. That is someone that you want to talk to. If it's 30 days or less, that's still fine. 60 days, get them under contract, but still be prepared that you're going to slow down the dispo process maybe a little bit. But anything below 60 days is going to be true motivation. And then finally, what's the cherry on top? It's going to be the reason for them selling. And the reason for them selling is going to be how you determine how to solve their problem. You said yourself about health issues, right? So if the property is contaminated with meth, okay, that is going to be one problem you can solve. If it's bad tenants, that's another problem. If it's mold, that's another problem. Divorce, whatever the problem may be, that's where you then decide on how can you fix their problem. So timeline, reason for selling, condition of the property, and price of the property. And I'll tell you right now, when I get leads from Jason and his team, if they say to me, I'm looking to sell right away, I know right away I'm going to be giving an offer. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. And so for a lot of newer wholesalers where they go, I'm not being given the opportunity to give enough offers, it's because you're not generating enough qualified leads. Working with PPL is what allows you to do that.
Yep. And listen, there's so many marketing things, right? You go into mailing, you go into cold calling, you go into cold texting, go into our stuff. For us, you can turn it on and off whenever you want. You have cost certainty of how much you're going to pay per seller and real time. So you have people who actually, you're going to have those conversations and you can control that. So I love that. And we actually show on the leads, we show the timeline that the person put down when they filled out the form.
Right. Exactly. So, Jason, is there anything else that when you're talking to a newer investor that's working with you, anything else pop in your head you want to talk to before we wrap this up?
Yes, let's talk about another thing here. What's their goal? What's your goal, right? So we talk about wholesaling, which is, you know, awesome. It saved a lot of houses. It's probably, brought a lot of new life into a lot of neighborhoods, made a lot of people money, right? Between the flippers who don't have to source those deals, and then the wholesalers who obviously make cash and get them into real estate and propel them to a different lifestyle. So wholesaling obviously is great, but have other options available, right? So I love the creative finance stuff. You know, if you're just doing wholesaling, you're not building wealth. You basically get given yourself a job, maybe a business, but I don't think you're building wealth the way you are if you're owning property. So I'm a big fan of the creative finance, the wrapping it into notes, but having different strategies, right? With the wholesaling now, a lot of people don't want 70 cents on the dollar minus repairs, minus, your wholesale fee or
Mhm.
whatever. Be able to do innovation where you can list the property if they have a little more flexibility, right? Do something where you can do seller financing and call in some now, some later, right? So you don't give the people the money all up front but you can give them a higher number because you're spreading out the payments. So my point in all this is have multiple options. It's not something you need right away, but as you start talking to sellers and you start realizing that, a straight wholesale deal won't work, don't waste a lead. Find other ways to kind of r- solve their problem and find the win-win. So I think it's so important to learn, subject to. It's so important to learn about seller financing. It's so important to be able to do innovation here and there if you need to. But having these different options is really huge. Another thing is, and I don't know if you teach this or not, but at some point in your career, like flip a few houses. One, you're going to realize, wow, this is a pain in the ass. It's never as easy as it is on TV, but you understand the whole way to do it, the whole process, and how hard and how difficult it is, and the cost of money and time and everything. You learn about the cost of repairs, but you also some people are going to go, hey, you know what? I can systemize this and I can do this really well, and others are like, all right, I understand this, and I'm never going to do it again.
Right. To answer your question, I do teach it, but I highly discourage a newer investor to get into flipping because really, when you're fixing, flipping, and renovating properties, that's where the sexy content comes from. That's where like, let me show you before and after of my kitchen. Like, look, oh my God, the transformation is so beautiful. So a lot of newer investors, where they've watched HGTV, they've watched all the flipping shows, that's what they imagine becoming an investor is going to look like. But you're absolutely right. There's the cash conversion cycle. There's, if you're getting a lead and you're getting under contract, you might be able to make $100,000 profit off renovating that property, but that also took you 6 months to a year. It took you a lot of pressure. I promise you, you're going to be hands-on. You're going to be fixing problems with the plumbing or a contractor that doesn't show up or doesn't finish painting the walls, whatever it may be. You're going to put in a lot of time into that property versus instead of making $100,000 in 6 months, you could have made $50,000 in 2 weeks. And that,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
so right. I had rental properties years and years ago, and I remember I bought a property at auction. It was a good deal, and I was like, all right, it's going to need a lot of work. And I remember I had the water company turn on the water, and I couldn't even get the water out of the basement. There's so many burst pipes. And next thing you know, I'm learning how to sweat pipes. Now they use the PEX and everything,
yeah,
but it ended up being way more than I thought. Another time I did a kitchen. I'm like, oh, this kitchen will take me 2 weeks to do. The kitchen and some floors. End up taking 2 months.
right.
That's not what you want to be doing, and even if you can do it, doesn't mean you should. If you're investing in real estate, don't be a contractor, right? So I think that's super solid advice. At some point, maybe they get to that point, but if you can get half the money and not have to do anything, I mean, it's just a no-brainer for me. Wholesale it and move on and find the next deal. And if you're redoing a house, you're not working on your next deal.
Yep.
So even after you close it, you make your money. Well, now what? Now you're sitting there with your hands up and you're like, I got nothing. Or you're getting leads and you're not following up enough because you're worried about this kitchen and these leaks and and the floor, and it's got to be even, and don't bother with that nonsense,
Right.
until you're ready to systemize, until you have a crew, until you're ready to get to that point. Make it easy. Sell the paper and move on to the next one.
Absolutely. I want to say something real quick and add this. If you're listening to this episode and you already are a flipper, right? You never did any wholesaling. So this is another type of investor that exists, is someone who literally will buy their deals from wholesalers, right? Or they're going to go to the auction, the courthouse steps, and they're actually going to find those deals there because they've never learned about marketing. Well, guess what PPL provides you? If you're already a flipper and you're already buying deals from wholesalers, what you are doing is you are literally paying premium price for that property because that wholesaler has squeezed out the equity for their assignment fee. When I work with a lot of flippers, it's typically when they come to me for the investor semester and they're like, hey, Jeremy, I want you to teach me how to generate leads now because I'm sick and tired of watching that wholesaler make $50,000 on me and I have to work for 6 months to make the same amount. I would rather find the deals myself and save that time and save that money. And I go, well, PPL is where you need to be because PPL is the easiest cost to lead generation tool out there by far. With PPC, you're going to have to generate your own campaign. You're going to have to get an ads manager. You're going to have to do all that kind of stuff. With cold calling, you either have to hire a virtual assistant and download a list of 10,000 addresses and skip trace that list and make sure the numbers are right. Blah, 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 blah. PPL, the reason that I suggest to everybody out there, if you have a marketing budget, you put money into PPL. And like I said, you are going to get, the minute that lead comes in, your phone is going to text. Your CRM, if you have a software, is going to text you. There's even softwares out there that will call your phone the minute that lead gets put into the system. And you see on your phone, you go, oh, Motivated Sellers is calling. You press 1 to answer, and you know that you're now getting connected directly to that lead where the CRM is actually calling that lead for you from your phone. And then when they answer, you just know, you start the conversation. Hey, how's it going? My name is Jeremy. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably just went to our website or maybe you put in information on one of our ads about your property. Does that ring a bell? And they go, yeah, actually, I just did that 30 seconds ago. Well, awesome. Hey, I really wanted to get in contact with you as fast as possible. When people go to our website or they put the information in, they're looking to sell their property quickly. And I'm looking to give offers as fast as possible. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the property? What has you wanting to sell? Done. If you're a flipper, can you step away from watching paint dry and be able to have that conversation on the driveway of your flip? You absolutely can. Right. And so that's why PPL is a really big advantage for people that have marketing budget to be able to afford.
We have some flippers who make really good money doing this. They don't have the conversion rates of a wholesaler because they're a lot more picky in what they buy.
Sure.
But they get some of the best deals. I love hearing the stories of the flippers because they get those 6-figure deals. You don't see that from a wholesale deal. You see 5-figure deals, 50,000, 10,000, whatever. Those flippers, especially in California, where everything's just super expensive, but those guys, the amount of money that they do, and they put in a lot more work. So, give credit where credit's due, but they're the ones who have some of the biggest paydays.
Absolutely. I've done a number of wholesale deals that have been 6 figures, but if I'm doing either a creative deal or I'm doing a renovation, a fix and flip, it's always over $100,000. So that's a guarantee. So,
right on.
Jason, I want to kind of wrap this up, man. I want to talk about ways that people can get into contact with you. If you guys go to motivatedsellers.com/semester, you guys can get access to this. And I talked about this before. All you need to do is set up an account. And at the bare minimum, you can start to identify which markets you might be looking to invest in virtually by seeing what the prices of those leads are right now. So I urge you that if you're trying to decide on a virtual market and you're trying to think to yourself like, hey, maybe I live in a rural area and maybe that this is not the best market for me to be in myself, but I want to find a virtual market out there, a city that might be performing well. Go to motivatedsellers.com and set up the account, like I said, and start looking at different state by state, county by county, and you can start to figure out where your budget wants to be. Or again, you can sharpen your blade and just do nationwide and get cheaper leads and start actually having those conversations and giving those offers. And so I would suggest that. So guys, go to motivatedsellers.com/semester and set up. And at the time of this episode, I know you guys are offering, what is it, the $1,000 for the 1,200?
It's 10% of whatever they prepay.
That's
they
what
get a 10% credit on.
Got it. So that's something they're doing right now, guys. At the time of this episode, that's what they're doing. If something changes, obviously, I'm sure they're going to have an incentive if you're setting up an account, but it's a really great way of basically setting up your account, putting some money into your budget, and just start marketing, start having those conversations.
Here's what I'll tell you guys. All right, this is not a high margin business. We kind of use that Walmart model, right? Where we want to sell a lot, but it's a small margin. So there's always debate. They don't want to give the 10%. They do want to give the 10%. We want people to be committed. We want people to be successful. We don't want you to get one lead. That's why we do it. So because I'm saying it here, I'll honor it for, for at least a year, right? If somebody wants a prepay, they'll do it. I'll honor that for a year. I think that's fair, and I'll take the grief from the inside. I don't see us ever doing anything better. There could be something, there could be something else, but we'll always honor. We want to do right by people. We want to see people be successful. So that's something really cool. Another quick thing. Listen, I'm partial because I answer the phone a lot, but our customer service is the best. You're not going to get somebody in India or Pakistan or overseas. You're going to get somebody here in the U.S., speaks English, and wants to help out. Doesn't matter who you talk to here. Our crew is really good, and we're really proud of that. And a lot of times you might get me, and I'm super proud that's something one of our values that we really put in there is we care about our investors. So I just want to throw that out there. And Jeremy, I appreciate this, and I want to make sure that we take care of people really well, and we treat people really well.
I love that. Jason, where can people go deeper to find you?
MotivatedSellers.com. You can call us up 305-771-1557. I'm on Facebook. I comment a lot on different posts. I'm in your group, obviously. I try not to insult people. I do sometimes. Never maliciously, but I'm like, no, what are you doing? Don't drive for dollars. There's easier ways to do it, so it's all from a good heart place.
I love it. Well, that leads me to my very last question. And this is going to put you on the spot right now. You ready?
Let's go.
What's a common piece of advice that you think new investors should ignore?
That they should ignore. All right. So first thing is, I don't want to hear crap from people who've never done it before, right? So like you say, oh, I'm getting into real estate investing, and everybody tells you, oh, no, don't do it, but they've never been successful in it, right? So ignore people who haven't done it because everybody knows better, but they've never actually done it. They can't speak. The other piece of advice, I don't know how I'd say ignore, but I would say don't focus on the deal so much. Everybody wants to teach about deal structure and everything. Focus on the motivation. Focus on the seller. I'm a 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, reader. I love the book. I swear by it, but seek to understand, then be understood.
I love that.
Understand your seller. That's it. Everything they can go to you. You'll help them out with the deal. There's 1,000 people who know how to structure a deal, right? But understanding a person and building rapport with them and trying to give a solution that's a win-win for everybody, that's the most important part. So I guess ignore the deal structure, ignore the numbers, ignore this, ignore that. Just focus on the person, and try to solve their problem.
That is incredible advice. And again, I say that to my students, guys, stop trying to underwrite the deal before you even know it's a deal, right? Find the person, find the pain. The profit is directly proportional to the pain that you solved, the problem that you fix. And so right now, if you're a newer investor, it's about generating leads. It's about finding motivated sellers that are looking to sell their property. And there's a reason why their website is literally called Motivated Sellers. It's not a joke. It's finding people that are looking to sell their property now. And then if you need to, partner up with somebody. Find another investor that's done this, that knows the underwriting, that knows creative finance, that essentially you've got your tool belt, right? You've got your hammer, you've got your ruler, you've got your tape measure, you got all those things. And that's where an experienced investor can come in and actually help say, hey, the seller needs us to do this for them, and they bust out their hammer. Or the seller needs this and they bust out their saw, right? Right now, your job as a newer investor is just to find those sellers that need to sell their property and then work with partnering with people. Like that's where the investor semester comes from. It's about finding people to partner with and helping lift each other up. And so for me, I'm super happy to partner with you guys. If you're ever listening to this, just go to investorsemester.com and yeah, join our community. We also have a Facebook group as well. But let me wrap this up officially. Guys, you've been listening to the Investor Semester podcast. Do not forget to subscribe and please leave a 5-star review. And you know what? Feel free to share this episode with your friends if you found any value. We're going to see you on the next episode. But until then, guys, keep grinding, keep making offers. And for God's sake, please call your leads. We'll see you guys next time.